Well, so here's the question, is that sure, I think it's very easy to win one game by just dunking over somebody. All right, we've got a fantastic player. Can they do it again in game number 2, Trans?
What I've seen last game, none of them were talking after when they were losing. Like, I was looking at the player cams, they were not talking. They have to, like, clear their heads for this game and just, you know, have a fresh start.
Communication is key.
Because it's a best of 3 too, so this is their last chance.
This is backs against the wall.
Yeah.
They've got to do it. So InControl looking for the first pick here. Astral on the option.
InControl with the first on the first pick side means that maybe they can get that Erlong Shen for themselves. I think Chapo had a pretty solid game on that pick. Getting the first blood was obviously huge in that duo lane. Like
I told Aggro, I don't think Freya not in the ADC. I think she's more of a mid god.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of teams in the PC Pro League trying to play her in that ADC position, and they've had some success. What's the biggest difference there?
It's almost always paired with Cerberus in that lane. It gives you so much pressure, the ability to fight early on. It covers up one of Freya's weaknesses, is that pre-5, she's very vulnerable, but when you're surging forward all the time, it's pretty easy to be the aggressors in that lane. I just think that after that performance that Outbound had, I don't need to see it again. It's time to move on already to a different pick.
Yeah, different pick, yeah, I agree.
Well, looking at the bans, I'm not sure if that's the direction he wants to go in. Cerberus and Erlong Shen going to be banned out here. Astral taking care of the control mage. And right now they're trying to figure out if they want to give Freya across the way or Mercury, I think.
I don't have any problem giving InControl Freya after that last game. Yeah, give it to him. Let him pick it. Now they leave the option open. Do you want Mercury or Pele or Freya? If I'm in control here, I take Freya because it's unlikely that Astral will take both Pele and Mercury. Odin's not too bad either, though.
I mean, you called it the permaban.
The permaban, but I mean, they first picked it, so.
It's going to work out just as well as a ban.
But that's still super good for Astral, right? I mean, you just forced InControl to first pick Odin, which will never be as effective as it would have been for you, and now you've got the option. Do we want Mercury? Do we want Freya? Do we want Pele? I mean, you can take both.
Odin kind of counters all of them.
They're Odin is pretty good against those, but I think that Astral's in a position where if I'm in their shoes, I don't think I'm worried that much about that Odin on the other side.
Of course I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. If Layers says, give me Pele, I'm locking Pele. It's pretty simple.
Jingwei going to be the lock-in here for Astral. I do have one more. Already in the bank time. Going to be the Sun Wukong, an early pickup for SWK.
That can go jungle.
Yeah.
Could go jungle. I think Layers has played some stuff like that before. It is just a pick that gets out of Odin Cage. So is the Jingwei. I have no problem early picking the Jingwei, keep it out of Outbound's hands, give it back to Griffin in the dual lane. He played it pretty well.
Yeah, he played it good.
But I just feel like they might be giving this Odin pick a little bit too much respect.
I feel that. I definitely feel that.
Yeah, I think they were better off. They banned their own god. They were better off banning the Odin, if anything.
Astral's a team that I think is, you have to recognize your talent level. I think Astral is better than the Odin counter, if you will. They can just play characters for the most part. I think Layers can, like you said, just play a god that gets countered by Odin, and it does not matter. He's just better than the pick itself. That's a real thing. So option over to InControl. What would you like to see paired up with this Odin?
I mean, Kobe has a dirty Zeus, so I wouldn't mind seeing the Zeus and the Khepri.
That's true.
They could run it back to Zeus Khepri right here. I would like to.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I actually would have liked that a lot as well. I think that giving Outbound something safe in the mid lane, though, I think this Chiron could be going in the mid lane for Kobe. That wouldn't be a bad look for him. I think he has played it a little bit. He did play a little bit ADC this year. Didn't go particularly well. That's why he's here for InControl. I agree with Trans. I think Zeus or something like Upwash, something similar, same sort of vein, big AoE control.
Yeah, it's something that can pair up with the Odin. Very happy to see Chiron go into that long lane as well. Kobe is a traditional mage player. I like to see him on those traditional mages. He can do the hunter. I think it's similar to Pretty Prime conversation we had on PC. Yeah, you can play the hunters, sure, but I'm just always happier with Kobe, Upwash, or Zeus. That said, KP, Layers, he's got Thor. This could be devastating.
I like it. I like it.
This was the pick for him, man. For a long time, this was his pick.
Really, really was. Here making a statement. Astral returning to it. Second round of bans here on the clock. Astral trying to figure out what they want to take away from InControl. PlayStation team here, down one game. It is a best of 3. All Astral has to do is win this one, and they move on. InControl has to win now, and then again. Geb, the ban here from Astral, and right away, InControl ban out Boronic's Rygaklu.
That's a good idea. That's what I was thinking for Astral Authority, something that gets out of Odin Cage and something that Boronic is very comfortable with. Boronic, I think, might look to Giannis next, and so if I'm InControl, that might be where I'd be looking to ban.
Certainly a lot of movement, able to get through everything. Nice look there. Low time on the clock. Astral has really spoken a lot about this pick ban phase, and I really respect that. I think it's easy to come in as the winning team and kind of think very simply about what's going on here. But Astral's still digging deep and bopping hard. I like that.
Does Discordia 3 get out of Odin Cage?
It does,
yes,
yeah. Yeah, it gets you up and out of it.
I actually like to see Discordia though.
Yeah, it might not be a bad call. Khepri ban, actually, from InControl. I thought they might be going for something like that, Khepri. Joltak didn't have the best performance on it, but it is something that can protect that Opwash pretty easily and still take that frontline damage for you. With the Geb ban as well, that means that the premier peel and save Guardians really aren't on the table anymore for InControl.
I'm looking at Athena. You've got the Kyrian on the InControl side of the board. Athena's my go-to. Athena into Opwash is not your typical raw beam, as so to speak, follow-up, but it's certainly there.
I agree. I think that, honestly, I'd like it for Astral here. It gets you out of Odin Cage if you use that Defender of Olympus. Double Global can be very, very hard to counter with that Thor as well. Chapo has played a lot of Athena. I mean, we messed around with it in jungle back in the day. He's definitely got a good one, so I think that'd be a good idea for Astral.
Athena's the pick, period. Whatever team picks Athena is doing it right here. But again, Astral digging into their bank time. The selection will be Bacchus. Astral looking more and more aggressive.
I mean, Bacchus has an anti-heal in his burp, so, I mean, he could stop Outposh's heal, Chiron's heal.
That is true, but Bacchus is the type of pick, I mean, so much of our talk pregame was how much practice has Chapo had.
In the support role, yeah.
In the support role, exactly. You really think Bacchus has been the character he's been working on? I mean, maybe he likes doing damage, but I still feel like Bacchus is a fringe meta god that's only good in the right situations.
I think they were overthinking the Odin. They just wanted to be out the cage.
I agree. I think that Athena gets you up and out of that cage fairly easily and is very, very good with the Thor already, sets up for what could be a good Discordia pick later on. I agree. I think that Astral got in their own heads.
I think there is a mentality where Chiron just negates what Athena does. A strong Chiron makes sure that you just can't get taunted. So I think there is a thought process there. And as we said, Chapo, an aggressive player in his own right, Bacchus is that type of dude. But again, this is fringe meta. I don't even care if it's meta. You know, I'm asking for Poseidon jungle every game. He's just hard to play.
He is.
And that's the concern for me, is that this is a hard god.
Well, you want to talk about cleansing abilities like Athena Taunt. How about cleansing Intoxicate very, very easily? How about cleansing Belch pretty easily? You can cleanse Belly Flop fairly easily. I mean, these are all abilities that can get cleansed. Chiron is just good against Guardians.
Belch, you were calling that before, Chris. What do you say about Discordia? Why do you want to see it?
Well, I feel like Wolves is always going to be brawling, so he's always going to have that passive. That benefits him too, and she gets out the cage.
It's absolutely true. Bacchus is going to be bringing a ton of damage. Kuzenbo, one of Aggro's favorite characters, across the way for InControl.
What? No, it's not.
Aggro doesn't like Kuzenbo, but the reason you don't like Kuzenbo, he's so difficult to fight into.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, any damage dealer hates that guy because he stops damage dealers really, really well.
Astral have 5 damage dealers on their team.
More or less, yeah. And I think this matchup, again, is going to be ShaolinSSins up against Wolves. And can he control him in that solo lane? Is it going to be Kuzenbo solo or Odin solo is the question. And Wolves has played more Odin than all of InControl combined. So I think that Wolves is going to know that matchup inside and out. That would make me lean towards the Kuzenbo in solo, but do you really want to give Shaolin another low-pressure Guardian like the Kuzenbo?
I don't think that was the call.
I agree.
It's kind of tough. It's absolutely kind of tough. InControl versus Astral. Real quick, one word.
Astral.
Astral.
Looks like we're all Astral here. Casters, take us away.
And no big surprise that the desk is confident after that big performance from Astral in Game 1. They looked dominant as we expected, but can they close it out here again? It does seem very likely. A strong draft, though I would say a confident one from Astral, right? Maybe not the same picks that we always see, but definitely some comfort picks for them.
Certainly nowhere near as much pressure as what they opted for in game number 1, which might be a sigh of relief if you're an InControl fan, because things were looking pretty rough at the beginning of last match. I think that Astral are still probably intending on trying to use Chapo as a heavy rotational factor early on to see what they can get away with, but it's certainly going to be significant significantly easier for InControl to find the necessary responses.
Might be a bit easier path for them. They got some strong picks themselves. XCovi on the Opwash, who's been a very strong pick as of late. Odin, who's always been a high priority pick on the box in particular, and they have great synergy with him and the Opwash together. You cage him in, he drops down the crypts, and nowhere for you to go. So I think InControl have a very strong draft this time. They just have to make sure they're able to execute it, and they don't let themselves fall behind like they did last time. They had some troubles the last time they were in this situation early on.
And another thing you have to also factor in, though, is that even with the Odin, or excuse me, even with the lockdown from the Outwash and Shaolin with the Kuzenbo, it's not necessarily guaranteed setup. It's a lot of space denial, sure, but AoE might not be as effective when you think about all the mobility that Astral Authority have.
Very similar to the last game. Outbound takes some early poke off a knockup. Griffin on the Jingwei, able to put in a little bit of work, but Outbound makes it out. So he should be A-okay. This is one of those areas, though, they've got to make sure they're controlling a little bit better. This duo lane fell behind so early last time. They can't afford to have the same thing here.
And this is a nasty combination so far from Griffin and Chapo. Belly flop into the Persistent Gust. It's guaranteed knockup, and it's a double knockup, too, if you are able to match that timing in sync. And so far, Griffin has been a little bit too early with some of these Persistent Gusts that there hasn't been the double knockup effect, but it's still just as strong as ever. And it's certainly something that Outbound is already probably pretty annoyed with.
I'm sure at this point he's already tired of it and no longer wants to deal with it, but unfortunately, it's not going to stop anytime soon. Astral should be able to take this purple buff without too much trouble. They've got all the lane dominance, and really, InControl just kind of have to stick around and make sure they clear those minions, so an easy purple buff steal for Chapo and Griffin.
Astral Authority's dual lane already sitting at level 2 here, but Flop is off the mark and Outbound. That might have just been first blood had Chapo actually managed to connect, but Outbound probably counting his lucky stars that it didn't.
Fortunately, able to just barely make it out of there, but Astral are not done getting aggressive. Layers now trying to steal away these back harpies, and this is not too far from what we saw in Game 1, where Astral was kind of just able to walk in repeatedly to InControl's jungle and steal their farm early on in the game. A lot of the times it was Wolves and Layers last game, but we're seeing the duo lane get in on this too for Astral.
Still, this is the kind of pressure that you want from this dual lane, and it's not exactly expected or guaranteed pressure either, because Jingwei and Bacchus don't have the easiest time out clearing too many opposing dual lanes, but it's mostly because of the Chiron, I believe, that has made this situation a lot easier to manage.
And Chapo's done a good job. They haven't even focused that much on clear. It's been on trying to out-pressure in lane, like looking for damage just like this. And then even though Outbound has the better clear, he can't stick around for it as he takes a big chunk of damage coming between Chapo and Griffin working together and immediately has to fall back.
Once Chapo gets the chug online also and begins getting towards that intoxication factor, the tankiness from Bacchus, he probably won't even notice these bird bombs that Joltak keeps trying to poke him out with.
Is able to get away from the Odin one more time as blue buff invade is happening yet again. They're continuing from last game and the bounce out of there, it would seem, as Thor was able to disengage. So clean one more time from Astral Authority on the solo side. They're controlling both sides of the map.
Layers probably not too happy about it, having to use his own purification beads though to get away with it. But better than ending up being the first blood in exchange. So invade, not necessarily completely in favor or going the way the Astral Authority would have envisioned it, because ideally they don't want to be pressured at all.
Is this Soul Eater first item right away coming out from Wolves?
Yes.
That's what it appears to be. He'll have a ton of extra ability life still helping him out there in lane once he gets that finished stack. This feels like aggression.
This feels like Deathwalker's pioneered Soul Eater, Sun Wukong, spreading its way over onto the console side of things. And I can't even blame Wolves for in this sort of matchup. You want that sort of sustain because it's going to be pretty impactful at preventing Shaolin from being as aggressive as he would want to be on this Kuzenbo.
And it's a bit of a greedy build, but it allows this Sun Wukong to get to the point where he's still dealing decent damage, but also almost unkillable very early on, as Layers has made his impact known left-hand side, but Outbound still had beads, able to get away from the Thor dunk, and we remain killless across the 4-minute threshold.
Perfect beads there from Outbound as well. Not only did he time it to avoid the stun from the follow-up wall out of Layers, but the Persistent Gust knockup not able to connect either. Instead, Astral just going to have to settle for clearing out their own purple buff. But knowing that Outbound doesn't have those beads is sure to mean a return visit from Layers any second.
They may not even need Layers to come back over as long as Chapo and Griffin can find a knockup combination between the belly flop and the knockup coming out from Griffin as well. So it looks like they once again strip away the purple buff. They've got both. And limit the farm of InControl even further. It's just a slow stranglehold that they have on this map.
Look at how much of a bully Wolves is being right now. This is what he does every single time he comes out to play.
All the
he
time.
just forces the jungler and the solo laner of the opposing team to back away from wherever he is on the map in this early game.
Now, at some point, Taco, I mean, you can't let them take all this farm from you. Just hold that thought. Layers might have an opportunity because they've got also Chapo coming in on the Bacchus, looking for the stun underneath the tower. Intoxicate finds it. First blood coming out for Astral, but Rygaklu here with a big answer back. He catches them under the tower with the Fear No Evil, but only gets one to make it 1-for-1.
Wolves going for the slowdown just because he understands without much mana, Rygaklu won't have any sort of follow-up other than the Fear No Evil. T1 Tower MVP for right now, because without it, I don't think we see Chapo dying there.
No, not at all. The Fear No Evil from Rygaklu was well-placed and well-timed. He was almost able to find more than just the one kill, but still, first blood coming out from Astral on that gank, going the way of Chapo with the Intoxicate. And he's even got the pin boots to get things started. So he's got a little bit of extra swing coming out now when he drops down that gourd. Or jug, whatever it is.
I don't think it really matters at this point. He's just trying to drink it. That's all he's looking for.
But he isn't. When you drop it down, he's splashing everywhere. It's such a waste. Why would Bacchus ever want to do that?
Or maybe he's watering the ground with wine.
With wine? You don't waste wine like that.
Depends on the wine.
Maybe Bacchus is okay with it. He's got plenty, apparently. He's able to drink from it all day long, and Chapo has plenty of pressure over here in the dual lane. You're going to see Outbound laughing a bit. He knows he cannot afford to step up in this lane, has to wait until they push that wave a little bit further from the farm.
It's interesting to see that from members of InControl, though. Even in the last game, I think xCovi was sticking out for me because he was still keeping that laugh spam, that taunt spam going. And it just tells me that InControl are still confident in themselves. They still feel like this is a set that they can turn around and that Astral Authority cannot afford to take them lightly.
And I think that they're right to sort of keep their mental state at that spot. They were the underdogs coming in, you know, and the pressure, I feel like, is on Astral almost entirely here. So even if you're having some trouble, if you're in control, you can sort of come in and going, well, who picked us to win this matchup up against a team as strong as this? We still have a chance to pull it out as long as we're here in this game. It can kind of keep yourselves, I feel like, a little bit more relaxed, even when things look bad.
Griffin trying to get those persistent gust poke spams onto Outbound. But with Chiron being so low on mana, I'm actually a little bit surprised he's still willing to play so far up in this dual lane.
I am also a bit surprised, but fortunately there's no one nearby to punish him for it, so he's going to try and grab what farm he can while he can, even if it's a bit risky, as Astral just grabbing their own red buff. They do remember they have their own jungle they can farm as well. It looks like Outbound will actually be here in time to defend the purple this time.
You actually have a tendency to forget about it at times because Astral has spent so much time in InControl's jungle.
Yes.
And yet InControl unable to find any sort of counters to this strategy from Astral Authority. And right now, re-establishing control of the purple buff, it's a start, but it's not necessarily going to be the winning factor here for InControl. You're going to need a little bit more than just confirming your own purple buff.
There's going to be multiple steps that they're going to have to make as oBoronic actually going into the Divine Ruin right away. It can be a strong item as hold that thought. There's aggression in mid. Just the flop and Unruly Magic is almost enough. xCovi reeling just from that damage. But the Divine Run this early, usually when there's really big healing you're worried about, you could see this. What's oBoronic worried about here?
He's just trying to inconvenience InControl as much as possible. The little bits of self-sustain that InControl do have in their favor are going to be negated pretty much entirely by this Divine Ruin. And not only that, but even if InControl were to try and prioritize more sustain to build onto the ones already involved in their kits, Divine Ruin, again, is just going to be so problematic that there's practically no reason for InControl to opt for that route.
Definitely one that feels good once you already have it. You can tell you're limiting your opponent's ability to sort of sustain through your damage. He's got the pin boots right there to follow it up, so likely won't be lacking for any damage. We saw him put the hurt on the xCovi. This could be some trouble though, but up in the air is Layers, comes right back down with a two-man stun. Beej gets him away from the Fear No Evil, and that Thor passive certainly swinging. They've even got more help coming in the form of Chapo, but the first one comes out in ShaolinSSins' favor, though they do get the answer back from Chapo.
Joltak gonna barely manage to escape from the aftermath of that explosive downpour out of Layers, and the Thor ult could not have been better placed, but a little bit too long of a stick around there from Layers. Definitely would have preferred to see him look to disengage after realizing there's 3 members. We are simply outnumbered on this one.
There's going to be more action as the Empty the Crypts ends up being dropped by xCovi to try and force everybody back. That was a good response from InControl. They got to send a bunch of numbers over there to try and answer this aggression, but this could be trouble now for Outbound. He does have some help coming over in the form of this Odin, but it's just not going to be enough unless he can find the reset to try and keep himself alive, but it's just not enough. A nice play from Gryphon to get the kill.
But the overhand smash from Rygaklu is going to clean him up shortly afterwards. Gryphon nowhere left to run. A really nice counter rotation from InControl to ensure that their Hunter, despite having been soloed, will not be able to fall any further behind because Gryphon's not able to farm either while he's dead.
That's about the only help that could be given there to Outbound in the tough spot he found himself in when Gryphon was able to, in rhythm, find a very nice airstrike to shut him down. So at least, like you said, at the very least, they shut down some of Gryphon's farm. But clearly, I think Astral are playing with some confidence, with some rhythm here at this point, landing a lot of these shots and able to play very aggressive.
3-man grouping in the mid lane from Astral Authority. Seems like Pyromancer could be the next objective focus, but for right now, Wolves still looking to just try and bully out Shaolin from the solo lane. And that was another thing, too, that we didn't really get to highlight in Game 1, was just the fact that Wolves kept Shaolin confined to that solo lane for so long that he was never really able to have an impact for his team.
Well, one more fight around the blue buff. Layers comes right down with the Anvil of Dawn and brings the hurting very early on the fight, finds the first kill in favor of Astral Authority. They also force out Rygaklu, who can't afford to stick around ShaolinSSins, unfortunately. We'll have to take yet another seat, and the blue buff will be going the way of Astral this time on the Chaos side, and they might want the Pyromancer on the back end as well.
And that's what that grouping was for early on. Astral knew that they were going to look for that blue buff invade, and whether or not InControl were prepared to respond to it is another story entirely. Astral Authority, one more time, they take down the blue buff, they take down the Pyromancer, and now this opens up the avenue for the team to continue to play super aggressive in dual lane because they don't have to worry about the right side of the map. Everything that's available has already been stripped away.
And even though this is tough and it's definitely in Astral's favor, they've been spreading InControl thin, I like the responses from them better than what we saw in Game 1. They've been trying to bring multiple members over to this blue buff spawn over and over. The problem is, on that fight, on the blue buff, they're just getting outplayed. Layers has been finding great ultimates in both of these engagements. The Fear No Evils haven't been doing quite enough. Even though they have the right answers, it just hasn't worked out.
InControl have also got to be a little bit more careful about spreading apart from each other when they recognize that Astral Authority are looking to play a little bit more aggressive. There's been a couple of moments where the team has had a tendency to group up on each other, and grouping up for a Thor ultimate, I think we all know that's never going to go very well for your team.
It's hard to have a good time when everyone's getting stunned, and Layers will do it to you every time if you give him the opportunity, as he finds the wall stun and the hammer to put a little bit of hurting on the ShaolinSSins over in the solo lane, who is a good bit behind Wolves, at least about a level or so, and about the same as Layers, who's been farming quite well.
These two Hunters enjoying their 1v1 exchanges in the dual lane.
Laughing.
I like it. I like to see the spunk, though, from Outbound still. Unswayed, undeterred, despite having already taken a couple of solo kills. I like that mentally he's still sticking to it.
But it's felt like a slow bleed here this whole game, as Chapo actually has to jump away from the engagement. It's good to know that he understands it can work that way, as he so often is jumping in, but he can also use it if he needs to disengage to get out of there. But one more time, Layers stripping away this blue buff. I mean, ShaolinSSins has not had a moment to breathe.
ShaolinSSins, I don't think he's even had a blue buff since the start of the game, the initial one that the
maybe since the
map
start of the
spawns
set
automatically.
Yeah. As they've been repeatedly stripped away from him. xCovi in trouble in the middle lane, has to use Aegis to get away.
Don't think it was just the Aegis, the beads as well came with it.
Yeah.
Chapo with these belly flops has been so devastating at preventing the carries from ever feeling safe. And now Astral, with xCovi having been forced out of his relics, they're looking to play even more aggressive against Joltak. Apple won't connect on the bounce back, but Joltak cutting it close.
And neither will the Anvil of Dawn. That's 2 ultimates committed from Astral, and they find very little on the back end. It looks like they were at least able to go strip away the red buff, but aside from that, not much coming from it as a rare out-of-sync moment there from Astral where they weren't able to connect everything together, though they do, once again, try and strip away this purple.
Good giddy up, though, from Outbound to ensure that he wouldn't catch the stun from the belch out of Chapo. And even though the purple buff wasn't able to be confirmed by InControl, it's still just InControl showing signs of life throughout this match.
And showing that they know the right ways to respond, I think, or at least the right ways to get things started, even if within those engagements they've had some struggles. So they have to clean them up a little bit and not let these buffs continually get away from them, because bit by bit, slowly, Astral are chipping away.
I take that back, by the way. It looks like Outbound was actually able to confirm it. He just didn't pick it up initially because he wanted to go for the wave first to make sure that he didn't lose any more experience than what he's already been deprived of.
Looks like a Gold Fury call, though, from Astral. They've got Griffin at least starting it up for now, though Rygaklu shows a little bit of presence around, and Astral think better of it. They were very cautious, I would say, in game 1 as well, patiently waiting on their opportunities. But once they got got a big lead in the match, then they started to push it. But still 33 minutes from them in game 1, even with their tremendous lead, they absolutely weren't taking any part of that game for granted. Wanted to make sure they guaranteed got their win over InControl.
Even right now, I don't think Astral Authority feel very comfortable having only a 3,000 gold lead. How many times, hold that thought though, at Layers going straight for the Berserker's Barrage, but he took out way too much damage too early on. Great cage from Joltak, gonna make sure that Layers is the only member that ends up dying in that engagement.
Yeah, unfortunately, blinking right with the hammer right into the Empty the Crypts and the Fear No Evil. No way for Layers to get out of that once he'd already committed the hammer. Though on the back end, looks like they were considering the Gold Fury, though they drop it. They want to look for this fight instead on the Joltak, who's playing the Odin. They can't quite lock him down, so they'll turn back instead to the Kuzenbo. And they've got 3 members here to look for a bit of a pinch, make that 4, as even Wolf shows up.
But Astral, with the man down disadvantage, they're not concerned in the slightest about still looking to push up into InControl's jungle. The red buff was available, and I was almost expecting Astral Authority to go for yet another buff invade. But somehow InControl managed to keep Astral Authority at bay. But that won't prevent Chapo from taking another look towards his Gold Fury. And with InControl having gone back to their normal farming, I don't think that they realize this is even going on just yet.
Looks like they don't. Things might fall, at least for now. They'll force back ShaolinSSins, who's now rotating to try and be a part of these fights. At the very least, it's much harder to get bullied in lane once we're in these team fighting phase, but can he have the same impact that Wolves can as the Gold Fury once again being looked at? And it feels like Astral much more serious about it this time. Below half HP, Sins comes in with the Watery Grave and forces everyone out. A nice job saving the objective for now.
Joltak, though, could be the next target of focus. Layers gonna get poked out pretty heavily. Rygaklu and Shaolin still trying to give chase, but a nice strike gonna get them both out of there.
Big damage from oBoronic. He finds Rygaklu first. Now ShaolinSSins trying to find his way out. A nice Empty the Crypts from xCovi covers everyone, but he does not slow down. GryphonSlays in the dual lane. He's able to find one more by taking down the Unbots. Wolves bringing in the Cudgel as well. Slams it home and gets one more kill.
And you would expect that the small jungle corridor would be the prime tear up for xCovi, but that Unleash the Crypts just felt so awkwardly placed. It never really felt like much of an advantage there for InControl to fight inside such a narrow jungle avenue. And with 3 members having been picked off, that is a guaranteed Gold Fury every single day of the week here, Finch. I don't think InControl were even remotely concerned about trying to look for a steal after losing their best steal capabilities there from the Fear No Evil, and xCovi and Outbound clearly not feeling very comfortable with the thought of sacrificing their own lives at just a mere possibility of stealing that one away.
Yeah, not much opportunity for them to grab it anyway, so they rightfully recognize they've got to back out of it, but they got to do something here. Pyromancer now also under duress by Astral, and there's really no one to make control around. This objective goes down. They turn right to the Fire Giant. No more waiting. They're ready to start the fight. ShaolinSSins gets forced out by the wall. The rest of the team finally on their way, but Astral have baited them into a bad fight. ShaolinSSins has to use the ult.
Griffin went aggressive though with that agility and might not He's going to be forced to airstrike out if he even gets it in time. Right now, he's able to remain safe because Joltak only has the Horrific and the Odin cage, but now Rygaklu's coming in with a big fear, no evil. Egg is perfectly timed, and Gryphon's still alive.
Just barely able to jump back out. A good job dropping down the apple to cripple out the Odin and at least buy themselves a bit of time. So Astral get too spread out in that fight, unable to find the FG. Already picks InControl, do a great job responding.
Kind of surprised that Layers didn't choose to go in there on the T1 tower. 3 fairly low health targets from InControl sticking inside of the T1, but Layers may be a little bit concerned that had he actually decided to land down upon Shaolin, for example, he would have just been CC'd for entirely too long and ended up dead.
Great wall from Layers to at least find his way out. But I think if you're InControl, you can chalk that last fight up as a win. I mean, the Fire Giant doesn't go down. You don't really lose anybody. You just force Astral back out. They did, of course, lose, Pyro and Gold at the top of that. But that certainly could have been a fight that went worse. As InControl now feeling confident to look for an engagement here in the 2v2. Outbound and Joltak up against Chapo and Gryphon. Not quite able to lock down Chapo, so he makes his way right out of it.
But Astral Authority's duo lane know that they've got company here, and it's not the kind of company that they like to keep around. InControl looking for that 4-man rotation over into duo. And with all the pressure that just took place in that right-hand side of the map, I'm not really surprised to see InControl trying to bring things back to Rain on the left-hand side, away from the Fire Giant, because at the very least, even if a fight were to go south in that sort of situation, Astral Authority might not have had enough time to immediately go for the Fire Giant since it's on opposing sides of the map.
I think you're right. Once they forced them to commit on the ShaolinSSins, and they were trying to chase him down while he was inside the watery grave, it might have been too tough for them to come back this early into the game. Only 18 minutes in, and yes, they have a substantial lead, but not quite enough where they would have felt confident going for it there. 7,000 gold, 10,000 experience. Maybe they'll feel better about it now. That lead is pretty good, but still, Astral have been patient all set long. Why change anything now?
Chapo still wanting to play aggressive, getting a little bit frisky there with the monkey in mid lane. Rygaklu, though, not worried in the slightest. He knows that with speed buff around his waist, that belly flop's never going to be able to catch up to him. And so instead, it'll help his solo laner confirm his own blue buff. And that might be one of the few blue buffs that Shaolin has actually had a chance to see all game.
He's just happy to have one. I would imagine at this point it's been rough for him with this pressure from Wolves and Layer on that solo side of the map. And that's what they do so well, is they just limit your options. They strip your farm. As Chapo trying to find the solo kill against Outbound. A great ultimate from Rygaklu will save the life of his hunter. They're going to commit quite a few ultimates trying to punish this Bacchus. They do trap him in the cage. The shell keeps him alive. But finally, Chapo gets punished for his aggression. But Layers is looking for the dunk.
That was a lot of ultimates for one Bacchus. And as for whether or not it's worth it, Astral Authority still managed to bring down the T1 tower. I would have to favor Astral in that exchange because they not only get Outbound and Joltak's ultimates, but Rygaklu's Fear No Evil means that Astral Authority could look for a possible power play around the next Gold Fury that'll be spawning pretty shortly here.
About 40 seconds away. InControl are going to 3-man split their purple. They can't afford to do much else. Not in this situation, but this is what you were alluding to earlier, right? Where Astral have made some small oversteps, I think we could say here in this game. Chapo trying to solo down, the enemy hunter near their tier 2 tower might be a bit of an overreach. It does bait out quite a bit from their opposition, and they don't get too punished for it, but those are the areas I think where you could see a little bit to be tightened up by Astral.
It forces Astral to slow down their pacing, and Astral, I don't think they really like to do anything that involves the word slow. I mean, it's been very aggressive, quick, decisive moments from this team the whole way through. Game 1, coming into Game 2 here, they've got a little bit of that momentum swing going. And we already witnessed what can happen if Astral Authority are given even the slightest bit of a lead in these team fights, because they got a couple of picks in the Pyromancer and they immediately start pulling fire. This is not a team that hesitates.
Not at all. When they see a real opportunity, they're happy to grab it. And they are at least posturing around this Gold Fury, trying to see what response they'll get from InControl, at least this time. And certainly they're here in great numbers, at least 4 on this side. ShaolinSSins still stuck trying to come through the middle lane. But at least at this point, there's no rush. Gold Fury has not been looked at yet. And Joltak able to get away from the knockup from Chapo with the lead.
Astral, though, still poised around this Gold Fury. they very much want it. And Shaolin, he's been cut off by an excellent wall there from Layers. He'll be brought down before anybody else from InControl even has a chance to try and bail him out.
And the drive by Apple, just letting him know what they look like while he's watching it in black and white. That could have happened if he had still been alive. They'll head now back to the Gold Fury, which has been bursted very, very quickly. InControl trying to find their way in, but Astral, yet again, very respectful. They drop it for a moment and continue to keep it leashed. They don't want to hold it too long and let InControl jump in for an easy steal.
Keep an eye out for Wolves, though. He's already looking for those backs to base, trying to teleport back in here. Nice fair no evil from Rygaklu, but a little bit too preemptive. Instead, the Monkey's going to get caught out. GryphonSlays with yet another kill, a double kill make it, because Joltak's going to end up following shortly after.
And that was a big dunk down from Layers. Huge damage to find one more kill. That one credit going over to Chapo. It's really only Outbound, the lone Chiron Centaur left to try and stand, and now it's really up to Astral to go wherever it is that they want to go on the map here at this point. If they want to go for gold, they want to move to fire, it's all their choice. ShaolinSSins is back up. He's teleported back into the tier 2, and he wants to try and at least figure out where they are, but the rest of the team is on the FG.
Wolves is not going to let this Kuzenbo anywhere near the Fire Giant. He knows that Chapo and Griffin are still working on it, and Sumo Slam instead is just a brawl of the solo laners in the solo lane underneath the T2 tower, but that's everything that Astral Authority would have wanted and more. oBoronic also with a solo kill onto Outbound in the duo lane, because by the way, not every single member of Astral went to the Fire Giant. They are spreading the map ever so thin. T2 tower falls in mid lane. oBoronic gets a solo kill. Fire Giant goes for Astral. It's just all falling apart at the same exact moment for InControl.
And they keep ShaolinSSins pinned underneath the tier 2 tower in solo. Remember, he teleported to that, and he hadn't gotten a walk outside of the range ever since because of the presence from Wolves. This is what Astral Authority can look like when they are given a substantial lead like this, because not only are they a very strong team together, they play well as a unit, but they're also strong individually. So when they break the map up like this, it's so hard for you to beat them in the one-on-ones or the two-on-twos. Oh, and you're also down 8,000 gold.
The fact that there was some form of a diversion in every single one of the lanes is just excellent communication from Astral Authority. That is a team with experience and veterans on it, because without that sort of knowledge, I don't think we see this team being anywhere near as comfortable to only send 2 members towards that Fire Giant.
And they certainly knew where everyone was, and it looks like they want the tier 2 tower and left to try and keep this siege going as we approach 27 minutes in what's been a very dominant set for Astral Authority so far. Tier 2 tower and left, a distant memory, no longer standing. Looks like they'll leave the tier 2 and right to Layers, and that minion wave, they should be more than enough to bring that one down. And the rest of InControl had to find some kind of way to group up and defend the left side Phoenix.
Layers can continue to split push to his heart's desire, but right now all focus on this left-hand side because Astral Authority actually falling incredibly low. Outbound going to bring down oBoronic, get a little bit of revenge going for himself, but Wolves is here to play, and he's not looking to mess around.
He is not done surging for it, but he might pay for it a little bit. Good damage coming back out from xCovi in particular, but Layers up in the air the instant. Dunk right back down. Rygaklu finds a good kill of his own, but Layers immediately answers back. They don't have Griffins, they don't have oBoronic, but they still got Layers for plenty of damage. They're going to keep right on pushing.
This left-hand Phoenix, though, might remain intact for now because without Griffin, Astral just doesn't have that range physical damage that they would need to actually break through the defenses that an Outwash can provide.
And so that will put on the brakes for the moment from Astral, but a good defense. And we saw this last game from InControl once they finally got to those Phoenix sieges. And for me, what it is that the map shrinks a little bit for them in that situation. They're able to all know what the clear goal is, and the communication becomes easier. They look much better in that situation.
That was probably the most controlled situation that we have seen from InControl so far in this set. It felt like the first time that they were actually able to coordinate themselves well enough to get the initial jump start onto Astral Authority. And the fact that they took that exchange so far outside of their Phoenix range too, that's rather impressive.
And I think it helps they found that very early pick onto oBoronic to start that one off. But we are sort of seeing the glimpses underneath this tremendous lead of Astrals that InControl's roster can put on at some points. Like when they have the cage, when they have xCovi with the Empty the Crypts, they're together, when they are able to drop down the Fear No Evil in the middle of it all after your relics have already been used. This is a tough team to fight into.
It did come off as a little bit of overconfidence though from Astral Authority because they've been running rampant for the other 27 minutes of this game, that was the first time that they ever really felt like they encountered a brick wall.
I think so, as a unit the first time. I mean, we've seen maybe individually some oversteps, but that time as a group, they pushed a little bit too far. Also, Layers wasn't really a part of the fight right from the beginning. He was able to come in on the back end and find some very nice cleanup kills, but they had to fight without him for a while, and I think that they just overstepped a bit. So instead, they'll group up, slow it down just a little bit. They'll leave one in the middle lane. Looks like they'll put that duty to Wolves, while the rest of the team pushes up and duo.
It's crazy to think that every single member of Astral Authority is fully 6 items slotted, though, at this point.
That is pretty
crazy. And the members of InControl are still working on it, and yet they were able to put up that strong of a defense against the likes of Astral Authority. So now it almost begs the question of, will this outwash be enough to stop Astral Authority every single time they're looking for the siege?
He's so strong on the defense, Opwash, isn't he? And they just need him to get maybe a few more items online. I mean, really, at this point, he's 5 slotted, is xCovi right now in this Opwash. You don't need a ton more than that to really get the maximum value out of him. That 6 item is certainly nice, but we often call it that luxury slot for a reason. At 5 items, Opwash is definitely going to be doing plenty of damage.
I think it just has to be an all-in commitment from Layers to seek out xCovi in the backlines, force that Unleash the Crypts preemptively, and make it so that Astral Authority won't have to worry about that Odin Outwash Wombo combo.
Or the Fear No Evil Opwash, or the Watery Grave Opwash. As long as Opwash is a part of it, you don't want to be there. So yeah, I'm 100% agreeing. If Layers can find this Opwash early, that would all but end any hopes for InControl to try and slow down their push. And they will grab this Fire Giant without any real trouble. No way for InControl to come out and even look at this.
I don't blame InControl in the slightest. I think that was the exact move that they needed to make if they want to keep their chances of stretching things to a Game 3 alive, because the jungle fights just are not for them. Every single time they've tried to take up an engagement in the jungle, it has been very lopsided in Astral Authority's favor. So their best bet is to play off of these Phoenixes, because that was the first and only time we've really seen a true team fight engagement go the way of InControl.
They're going to give it a try on the right side. This time they are leaving one more in the middle lane, but it will be Layers. He has the ultimate to come join the fray at any time at the Anvil of Dawn, so no trouble. But it's Wolves who jumps in right away, looks for the knockup, and xCovi certainly is the target on the back side, and that's left the front side of the fight even, where they don't have to worry about the Opwash.
Great Humbat's ultimate, though, to keep everybody at bay, but Layers still finds Rygaklu after the fact, but it won't go down without a fight. Layers with the double kill now as Wolves cleans up Outbound, and Fish, this could very well be the end of it for InControl.
It's just Joltak and xCovi, a lot on the shoulders of those two to try and keep this game alive. Griffin in the mid lane, pushing down the mid Phoenix. Right Phoenix has already exploded and fallen down to ash. No way for it to help out any further. Wall lands on xCovi. Beads and Aegis both come out quickly. A nice cage comes out, but it's immediately destroyed by the Titan, and now Astral Authority have a chance to send InControl home. Griffin finds Joltak, and no way for InControl to defend any further. Astral continue to move on.
And it's just devastation here for xCovi and the gang on InControl. They fought so hard to get to this moment here today, Finch, and Astral Authority just did what they've been doing all season long and absolutely dominating.
They absolutely did. Continued the dominance we've seen from them all season long in the online phases. Really, aside from Spring, this team has looked very strong. I don't mean Spring Online, just Spring, that's that summer event where they came in, had some troubles up against a rival. But other than that, it has been all Astral all the time. And as usual, they do it as a unit. Wolves in lane, just beating whoever's in lane up against them. Layers landing nearly everything inside those team fights. And Chapo baiting perfectly for the rest of his team. I mean, a great play.
No hard feelings, though, between these two teams. I mean, like we mentioned before this match even started. It's 40 degrees outside, and Chapo's still got to make sure that he's flexing.
It absolutely is very cold outside. It's been a big issue. And not Chapo, though. He ain't worried. Not my man. But certainly, when you're able to flex like that in game, you can wear whatever you want. Really strong performance from all of Astral.
I think that Astral just kind of had InControl's number from the start. They just seemed very well prepared for what this roster tried to bring up against them. And even with xCovi having played with this team in the past, I just don't think that his former knowledge was enough to carry them through this one.
It was not enough here. Astral, the ones that would be moving on. Let's get it back over to the desk for their closing thoughts after that huge console set.
Thanks a lot, Friendo Extendos. Fantastic set here. Astral doing what they came to do and control InControl.
They made it look pretty easy. I mean, Layers and Wolves did it again, but man, what a game there from Gryphon. I mean, his Jingwei was nuts.
Yeah, I'm not upset if I'm InControl though. They made it to Worlds. I mean, there was a lot of rookies on the team, to be honest, and they were up against experienced players too. So.
Exactly. This is a loss that you walk away with your head held high.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, a ton of rookies, a lot of players that are kind of learning what's going on here. And this is what you got to expect. You're going against the big dogs.
Yeah, the big
Literally,
dogs.
Wolves and the homies coming through. Post-game stats presented by Axis Replay. What sticks out to you, Ryan?
It's Griff. I mean, GryphonSlays played so well on this Jingwei. He was able to consistently pressure Outbound, sold him in both games of the set. And look at the damage that he was able to deal. 20,000, only second to Wolves, who is playing Wukong, was able to just beat up on Shaolin in lane.
You guys didn't like the Bacchus pick, but he actually played it well. He was forcing out Kobe's actives in mid a lot.
Yeah, he was.
Hey, you say you guys, the middle of the desk didn't like the Bacchus pick. I liked it. Look at that damage. He does just as much damage as his jungler. Tran, you said it before, double jungle question mark. I think we saw it.
They both played really well, both Layers, Chapo, basically everybody on the side of Astral Authority. I will say that Kobe impressed me with his play today, despite in a losing effort.
Yeah.
I think Kobe did his best, and he played very well.
Well, Kobe's the type of player that I think kind of was a little bit outclassed here on the Xbox, and I think the PlayStation was just a perfect spot for him to kind of lab his gameplay.
Yeah.
He wind up here sort of in more of a headline position on his team. I really like what happened for him on PlayStation.
I also think it's just a bit lower pressure for him, and that seems to work very, very well. He definitely was able to play loose today,
Sure.
and despite, again, a losing effort, I think that Kobe showed that he could still play with the big dudes.
For sure.
Certainly brought it out to play. InControl go ahead and walk away as Astral take the set 2-0. Beginning of the set kind of had Astral in mind, or excuse me, InControl in mind, but Astral was able to take it back in the mid game.
Astral was just dominant.
No, that second game, it was kind of even until like 17 minutes. Layers was almost dead, and I'm pretty sure Chapo was yelling, "Run to the team," because he literally was running this way, and then he turned to the left.
Yeah,
and then they wiped 3 of them, and they got go free, pyro, and the game just shifted.
By Red Buff, yeah, that was huge, and that's where that team experience that Chapo has can be really
yelling,
good.
"Come to the team," because he literally went around back.
Yep.
We've got a conversation. The team standing by. Astral Authority, what you got to say?
I'm here with Astral Authority after their big set 1 victory, already on their way to the finals to await the winner of Flashpoint up against Rival. First thing, I mean, is that how y'all expected the set to go? It was very strong performance. Just talk to about how the team's feeling after that win.
We're feeling really good. We expected to win that set. PS4, they're a new like just league in general, so they're not as experienced. Yeah, it went as planned.
And now that we know that you guys are going to be the team moving forward, when it comes to Flashpoint versus Rival, which of those 2 teams would you prefer to go up against?
To be honest, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's just that we're just playing like Smite to like a really clean level at this point. Even, people consider console, right? Like, we're not going to play clean. We're not going to do objectives. We're not going to come back. We're not going to, do things the right way. And I feel like we just have controllers in our hands. It's the only difference right now. And we're just trying to make that a point.
Well, it's a very strong game. I mean, how much does it mean for your team to almost always, it feels like Wolves, whatever his matchup is, it feels like he's always winning. It always has pressure over there in the lane. How much that helped the rest of the team? I mean, what does it mean for you all to kind of have him over there and be so reliable for you all the time?
Not only is he one of my best friends, he's just, I don't know. I'll literally give him like a yard and he takes it a mile, you know what I mean? I'll just invade blue and I'll take blue, and then he just takes it to a whole nother level. He'll just take his lead and he'll run away with it. So
it's to the point where we're screaming and we're like, hey, yo, we're losing some games. What's happening? We're like, yo, we're not camping solo, bro. That's what's going on. We're like, oh, just camp solo, get him ahead. And we have a level 20 Wukong come to Go Fury.
Just got to do something to get Wolves ahead. Well, again, congratulations. Y'all looked great in this set. Good luck in your next set as well. Whoever it is from Rival or Flashpoint, you're all in facing. Good luck in that set.
Thank you, my man. Appreciate it.
Chapo coming through in the clutch and just taking the spokesperson position for his team as well.
Oh, I'm surprised. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, Chapo, a big point though. We were talking about that, having that locker room guy, if you will.
Yeah.
And he certainly seems like he's bringing the team together.
It's huge. It's huge for a team environment that has a lot of experience, yes, but hasn't been able to win the title yet. Now remember, Chapo hasn't either, so they're all trying to get their first ring.
Well, Astral one step closer to doing just that. Let's take a look at the snapshot. Console wars going on here. We see right there, Astral beats out InControl. That'll put them in the finals. Team Rival and the Pentakid have to go up against Flashpoint.
That's going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't wait for that set tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think those two teams are going to be really good.
I'm excited for that set, yeah.
I mean, European console Smite has never really been worth talking about until this Rival team kind of showed up.
Yeah.
It was just Watson and the boys, and now Rival, they contend with the North Americans.
Yeah.
They're tough to go up against, man. Trans, what's the thing that you think about the most when you think about Team Rival?
Team Rival, the ADC, obviously. When he gets pumped up, he just pops off.
Pentakid.
The Pentakid, yeah.
Pentakid, baby.
He's a beast. He's a beast.
Big boy stuff there. That's going to be console. Of course, PC working as well. Bracket certainly turning up here today. We said goodbye to Jeff and Barracuda. The Sex Tank will not move on. Dignitas topple them. Splice take out Obey in 2 games. The Sam Paul League in effect as they knock out the defending world champions. Rival beat the Yamanless Energy, and that sets us up for semis.
And now we will have a new world champion. Every single former world champion team is out.
Oh, wow.
Ready for the semifinals. So we're going to have a new team get a crown this year.
Tomorrow we're going to start things off. Dignitas versus Splice. It's going to be hot. You don't want to miss that one. Trifecta and Team Rival after the fact. And then, of course, we have SCW match number 2, Team Rival and Flashpoint. And then the collegiate teams. UIUC comes through against Carlton U. Of course, J-Mac Tucker's going to be rejoining us. And the Indiana Boys, a familiar name.
Meerkat on the big stage. That's all I got to say about that. Front row tickets, book them now.
Somebody is going to get soloed by Meerkat.
Yes, absolutely. It might just be me in the crowd. I mean, you never know. You could show up and you could be the one who gets soloed by Meerkat.
I mean, you get soloed by Meerkat and ranked every day, so.
Wrong. 2-0 against Meerkat in this split. Thank you very much.
Well, if Flashpoint wins tomorrow, it's going to be the run back from last Worlds.
That's absolutely
That
true.
is true, yeah.
We've got a ton of drama on the line. Flashpoint looking for the run back from last time in the console world, PC world. No repeat champions. Everybody out of the bracket. We're going to see a new person. It's been a fantastic day. Any highlights?
Every game today was really nuts. I think E United being knocked out by Trifecta was the biggest surprise for me.
Watching Sam come through and play has been out of control. Trans, what was your highlight?
Actually, SSG losing their first game. That actually surprised me.
Yeah, some surprises, some not so surprising, but either way, all about the drama. It's going to be it, though. Tomorrow we're starting off bright and early. Make sure you're here for myself, Aggro, Trans, everybody that's been on the desk, everybody that's been in the seats, and everybody out there at home. Peace, and much love to you.
I like that.
HRX is brought to you by hi-rez Studios, iNet, Mixer, Alienware, and Skillshot.